Rosh Chodesh Adar, good Chodesh, Chullin Daf Ayin. We're continuing yesterday's sugya. At what point is a b'chor considered born? Is it when 2/3 of his body come out from that point on, or when 2/3 of his body come out, we say that retroactively what we saw coming out was a b'chor? Now, if that's what we say, then we have to be very careful that if the halacha is that you're allowed to cut a limb off and feed it to the dog, that's if you feed it to the dog right away. But you have to be careful not to let 2/3 of the b'chor accumulate and then feed it to the dog, because at that point it'll be too late. It'll be considered a b'chor born, and you're not allowed to give it to the dog. Very interesting halacha. If a b'chor is born feet first, because if he's born head first, as soon as the head comes out, it's considered a birth and it's a b'chor. But let's say feet first, and 51% of the b'chor came out. Now the 51% is including part of his upper foot, let's say, and most of his foot is still inside the mother. So you're right, realistically, we have 51% out of the body. But maybe halachically, we should view it as the part that's out of the body, the small part of the foot, like you see in the picture. The green arrow maybe should be considered as if it's still inside the mother, because the larger part of that foot is inside the mother, and you go after the right. Says the Gemara, no, we definitely don't say such a thing. 51% out of the body is considered that the b'chor was born. However, as the Gemara, and the Gemara stays with the Shaila, what if 50% was born, and most of the foot is outside of the body? Now, a reverse case. The red arrow in the picture is outside of the body. The green is inside the body. Can we use the green part of the arrow, which is inside of the body, and be mitzaref it to the red arrow and say, you're right that only 50% of the baby was born, but maybe halachically it's 51%. Gemara stays with the tzarechim. Now, the Torah says that a b'chor is considered a b'chor when it's peter rechem. It's the firstborn, and it's the one that opened the womb. We know that born cesarean with a cesarean is not considered firstborn. Now the Gemara has a series of questions, 7 questions, which will actually, the Gemara stays with the teiku, but it will explain to us a little bit more what is considered born as a b'chor. All these questions are when the b'chor is born feet first. Question number 1 is, let's say they wrapped the calf with a towel of some sort. Does that create a chatzitza to the womb? Does it have to be born touching the womb, or a towel is also good or not good? Now, if a towel is not good, what if you used the placenta of another animal? Placenta is a different type of material. It's more of its own natural material. Maybe that doesn't create a chatzitza. What about if there's a midwife that helps give birth to this cow, and she stuck her hands in? Do the hands create a chatzitza? Again, that's something that's typically done. Does something that you typically do create a chatzitza? The Gemara asked a very interesting question that Tosfos, in fact, uses this Gemara in Shabbos Kufnum Beis Amud Beis to say that sometimes the Gemara just asks questions that are almost impossible, just in order for us to get schar. Drosh v'kabel schar. What if a weasel goes into the animal, let's say a sheep, goes into the sheep, swallows the baby, comes out of the sheep? Now that's not considered a birth. Then goes back into the sheep, spits out the baby into the sheep, and then the baby comes out by itself. Is that considered a birth or not? Now, Tosfos says it almost can't happen, but maybe in our days, something like that could happen. For instance, if they remove the baby surgically to repair something, then they put the baby back in with a cesarean, and then the baby is born naturally. Do we say that the natural birth that occurred after the baby was completely outside of the mother, is that considered a birth or not, etc.? A similar question that Tosfos also discusses and says it's almost impossible is that what happens if you take 2 wombs and you put them back to back, and the one baby comes out of womb number 1, makes its way into womb number 2. So coming out of womb number 1 is for sure peter rechem, and then it's born naturally from womb number 2. Can we use one animal to do peter rechem on 2 separate animals? Gemara stays with the teiku in both of these. What if the baby never touched the birth canal? It was wide open and it fell out, let's say. Does the ear create a peter rechem, or does it have to actually touch the mother? What if the birth canal was completely removed from its mother and wrapped around its shoulder, for instance? Does the birth canal have to be in its natural position, or just has to be touching the baby as it's born? Now, if the birth canal, somebody took a potato peeler and peeled the entire birth canal, that would for sure not be considered a birth canal. But what if, says the Gemara, a little part of the birth canal was peeled, most of it was left intact, but the baby came out of the part that was peeled? Do we go by the roiv and say that this baby was born from a birth canal that has most of its skin intact or no? And vice versa. If most of the birth canal was peeled and the baby came out of the small part that wasn't peeled, do we say you have roiv? Gemara stays with the tekel. Says the Mishnah, new Mishnah. If we know that every animal that dies is an avela, what if the mother, a kosher animal, had an avela, had the baby inside of her that died? Says the Gemara that if you touch that nevela, you are tar. However, if the animal is a non-kosher animal and has a baby inside it that died, and you touch it, that's a machlokes in the Mishnah. What's the reason why an animal that dies within its mother is not an avela? Because we have a kal v'chomer. We say if an animal dies inside its mother and you shech the mother, you're allowed to eat the animal inside, even though it was dead at the time of the shechita. So certainly the mother should protect its baby from tumah. Once we have that concept, and that's by a kosher animal, then we can use a hekesh from a kosher animal to a non-kosher animal. Because it says in the pasuk, "V'chiyamos min habehema." That pasuk really seems like it's talking about a completely kosher animal. But we divide the pasuk. The top part we say, "V'chiyamos min habehema," is talking about a non-kosher animal. And then it says, "Asher hi lochem la'achla," it is for you to eat, meaning it's talking about a kosher animal. So we could compare a kosher animal to a non-kosher animal, and a non-kosher animal will have the same halacha as the kosher animal, that the baby inside it is not tomei. But Rabbi Yossi's Mechulek, he says by a non-kosher animal, it is metame. Why? He brings the pasuk. Nefesh shetiga b'chol davar tomei oy b'nivlas chay tmeya. The pasuk seems to be talking about a non-kosher animal. The question is, what's the difference between a non-kosher animal and a kosher animal? All animals are metame b'nevela. The answer is because Rabbi Yossi holds that this pasuk is only talking about our situation, where an animal is inside its mother, and only if it's a tummy animal is a metame, and a non-tummy animal is tahar. Now, Rebbe, as we'll see tomorrow's daf, learns from this pasuk that Rabbi Yossi brings a completely different limud. So therefore, Rabbi Yossi, in order for him to learn from this pasuk that a non-kosher animal is metame, has to use another pasuk of Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak learns from the pasuk v'chol hoylech al kapav that any animal that doesn't have split hooves, kapav meaning he walks on his paws, so his baby is metama. Her baby is metama. So the Gemara asks, but wait a minute, what about a pig? A pig has split hooves, so maybe her baby is not metama. That can be. A pig is metama just like any other animal. So at any rate, so we didn't want to use that pasuk. But a combination of that pasuk and our pasuk, together we learn that a non-kosher animal is metama according to Rabbi Yossi. And finally, Rabbi Yonasan asked Ben Azai, we have psukim for 3 out of the 4 types of animals: a behema kshera, and a behema that's not kosher, and a chaya that's not kosher, that they're all metama tumas nevela. How do we know that if a deer that's a chaya kshera dies, how do you know that it emits tuma? So he tried to give him an answer from hoylech al kapav, and the Gemara says no, but I use that for something else. So then Ben Azai looks at Rabbi Yonasan and says, and what does your Rebbe Yishmael say? He didn't use the term Rebbe Yishmael. He said Yishmael. What does he say? So he said, I'll tell you what he says. He says, he learns it from the pasuk v'chiyamos min habehema. The top part, like we said before, is referring to a non-kosher animal. Asher hi lochem la'achla is referring to a kosher animal. And an animal, a behema, is like a chaya, and a chaya is like a behema, and kosher is like not kosher. And from this pasuk, you see all animals, even a chaya kshera, is metama. Ben Azai was extremely impressed, and he said this lashon, chaval al Ben Azai, referring to himself. It's a shame on Ben Azai. Shleishimish es Rebbe Yishmael. In other words, it's a shame that I didn't have the opportunity to serve Rebbe Yishmael, and now he used the lashon Rebbe as covered. It's what a shame. His Torah is so beautiful. Have a wonderful day. Have a good Gebent Shechodesh. I will see you Be'ez Hashem tomorrow.